So welcome to this mini series where we are building a custom options navbar for your FlutterFlow application. If you love learning by doing, then this is the video for you. And if you're learning FlutterFlow for the first time, there's so many fantastic concepts within this particular video series that I'm sure you're going to learn an absolute ton. So this custom options navbar is going to be this replacement navigation bar that you'll put at the bottom of your FlutterFlow application. You'll have an option to select in the middle, and it's going to show these expanding options, which you can then choose one of, and then also you can then carry out further tasks with inside your application. So this is a kind of an inspired application build where once upon a time I used a cryptocurrency application which had something very, very similar. I'll show you what that looks like in a second, and I'm sure you'll be interested to put that in your own actual applications as well. So what are we covering then? So we are creating this custom FlutterFlow component, okay, that's going to replace a typical navbar. So often with inside these mobile applications, the navbars can look a little bit kind of a bit boring and not really have a lot of interest about them, but this allows you to create something custom for your FlutterFlow application. And this navigation bar kind of has this central button that you can actually select, as I said before, and then once you actually select that, these options will then be presented, which the user can then choose one of those, and then of course you can then carry out whatever tasks that you need to do once you've actually selected those options. And we're going to be using animations quite a lot in this particular series, so if you're looking to learn animations within FlutterFlow, then this definitely is the right video for you. So by putting animations into our FlutterFlow application, of course we're making it just feel that much higher quality as something for your users to use. So the key thing is what you're going to learn. So you're definitely going to use a FlutterFlow components. There's a number of components in this particular sort of video. And of course, we're nesting these components as well. We're going to see how the interactions work between those actual components. And of course, these components are going to be responding to components events as well. So your pages are going to be responding to the events that are are generated from these components. We're going to, as I said before, we're going to use plenty of FlutterFlow animations, and we're going to use plenty of FlutterFlow UX techniques in there as well. So let's have a look then. Let's have a look. On the left hand side, you can see that this is the kind of the crypto inspired application here, and on the right hand side in full view you can see this is the application that you are going to build in this particular series. And you can see here this looks pretty close to the Binance application that we got here on the left hand side. So it just goes to show that if you see something that you really like, there's nothing stopping you within FlutterFlow and actually recreating some of these fantastic concepts that's used. So hopefully you agree that that looks pretty similar. In fact, I've added even some more bells and whistles in here, because you can see that actually as you select those options at the bottom there, you can kind of clearly see there's a little dot there, a little selector that's kind of showing you what's going on. So that's it. That's pretty well much it. I think we're pretty well much in a good place now. We're ready to rock and roll. So let's hopefully get you sort of settled down. There is a project to clone with inside the link in the description to get you started. So without further ado, let's get into the video and let's get cracking. So let's have a look at the application then running with inside FlutterFlow's run mode. As you can see here, I've kind of got some general kind of widgets on the screen here. I've kind of kept that in the starter project because there's kind of no reason to take them out. Okay, I've kept them in there for you to have a look at in terms of how they're being put together. But generally, the main focus of these particular series of videos is on this area just at the bottom here, and this is our custom navigation bar. Okay, now this navigation bar has some great features. Okay, so firstly, we can, as normal, select each of these particular pages here, and as you can see here, we get this kind of little circular dot underneath each icon. You can see here that the icon is nice and white here, and the one that's not selected, the page is not selected, is currently in like a grayed out view, so that's good. And of course, the magic though comes in when we press that central button. And if I press that central button, you can see now that we're presented with a series of custom options. Okay, you can put kind of whatever options you want with inside this particular section, and of course you can select any of these here, and of course they just close down there like that. And as you can see, when I click on this particular bar, this sort of the action bar here, you can see we've got some nice animation going, kind of got like a twisted kind of a container there that sort of twists around about 45 degrees or so. And then of course we've then got these arrows that kind of just sort of spread out from the actual view itself, and of course the X expands as well. So it's quite a nice little pleasing bit of animation to actually include with inside the navigation bar. Now, one thing you'll also notice as well, when I actually press this button, okay, when the actual options get displayed, you'll see here there's this little bounce effect that just sort of appears here. I'll just close it down, just open it up, and you can see here. So it's just those little subtle differences that will make a difference between the application that you would build that would be then really pleasant for your users to use. And the fantastic thing about FlutterFlow, of course, is that the animations are so elegantly supported within inside the product. So of course you can really go to town in terms of putting that level of customization actually into your application. So pretty well much that is the sample. That is the application that we're going to build, and as I said previously, we're going to take this nice and slowly. I'll walk you through it step by step, and then if you follow along in your own application, you should end up with something very, very similar. So without further ado, let's now start building the navigation component. Okay, so here we are then with the starter project. Please do go and check the link in the description, of course. Do clone that project, and this is exactly where you will be. Okay, so what we're looking at here is we're kind of looking at an application that I've put together, which is really, really basic. It's got 2 pages and 1 component that is currently being used on this particular application. There's nothing to do with the navigation has been created yet, and we're going to walk through the series of steps required to do that. But just as a bit of orientation, you can see here I've got the couple of pages in my application, and I've got this particular component here, which is the market data component. Now really all this is the component that is currently being sort of used within inside this particular column here. So we don't need to worry about that for this particular video, but please do go and have a look at that if you'd like to learn how to use kind of like custom charts, which is what this particular custom widget is here. I'm kind of pulling that in as a kind of a third-party library which I'm using within inside this application. Please do go and check that out. But on the left hand side you can see on the kind of the basic widget tree structure here, we've kind of got the page container, which is kind of like the overall container we have in the page, and then we've got the stack. And a stack is really important to us because with our navigation bar we need to layer that at the right position within inside our sort of UI. So pretty well much our navigation bar is going to kind of sit at this particular level here, so that just means it's nicely then layered above the actual page container. But of course we're going to push this down to the bottom of the page, and I'll show you how to do that very, very shortly. So as you can see, just a series of widgets here. You can see here I have a general habit here of renaming my widgets. So within this particular video I will walk through the actual naming of the widget, so please do have some patience with me because I think it's really important. It's a really great habit to kind of get into, to actually name your widgets in a very, very consistent way. It's something that I've kind of developed and something I will always now do with inside all of my actual projects. And the reason why that's really important is because if you are starting to apply animations and you have a really, really complex kind of screen with lots and lots of widgets, by naming your widgets, then when you go to do the animations and you want to trigger those particular animations, then you can then reference them by name. So it just makes it really, really easy to kind of orientate yourself when you actually set all of that up with inside the Action Flow editor. So pretty well much that is to display a very vanilla project. You can see here I've kind of got it in dark mode here. I can toggle up here between the light mode and the dark mode. I'm just going to operate in dark mode here because the actual sort of FlutterFlow UI, I always do my videos in dark mode. So you can kind of choose how you would like to do that yourself. With inside the application, just have a little point out, is with inside the app state here, I've got this is dark mode setting. So if you want to run this up, but you would rather see a light mode version of your application, then just toggle that little tick box off there, and then of course it means it will then fire up in light mode for you while you're sort of testing your application. So that's pretty well much it. There's nothing more to say there for this particular sample project. Let's now start moving on, and let's now start creating that navigation component. Okay, so let's create our navigation component. So on the charts page here that I got selected, press the little plus with the diamond here for new component. This brings up the display, hit the create blank. Let's give our component a name. So I'm going to call this navigation component, just like that. Hit the create component option, and here we are with inside the UI. So let's just now stretch this out just a little bit more, just give us a bit more space to work in. So, okay, so within the navigation component, let's move this into the right folder. So let's just bring this up inside the components folder. So what I like to do in my particular projects is put all my components in one folder and all my pages in another sort of another folder, but obviously do whatever works for you. So what we now need to do is now with inside our navigation component, this is kind of like the very, very top level. Let's hit the little plus here. We now need to add in a stack, and the reason why we need to have a stack is because what we can do is we're going to kind of more strategically position what we put inside it to be aligned actually at the bottom of the actual UI, and you'll see why that's important very, very shortly, because when we then put this particular component actually onto the parent page, then the actual component is going to sit right at the bottom of the actual page itself. So I keep the stack named as stack. I don't need to rename this one actually. I'm going to keep this as it is because it's very much at the top level for me, and I know I'm only going to have one there at the top. So let's hit the little plus. Let's now add a container, and this container is going to be called a navigation container, just like that. And I'm going to just do some property setting on the right hand side here. So the width, let's now just set this to be infinity now, so it's going to stretch right across the display inside here, and a height is going to be a 70. The secondary background color is perfect. It's already set that for us. There's no other settings here that we need to kind of add, so that's all looking really nice. But the only thing I do need to do is obviously set its alignment, and now I set the height. I can just press this little option here, and that will sit it nicely down the bottom for us. That's in a good position. Now what we now need to do is we now need to start adding some additional kind of components in here. So the first thing we're going to add in is another row now. So this particular row is going to hold our actual navigation items that we're going to have there. So let's give this a name. So I'm just going to call this navigation row, like that, and then hit the little plus again, and this is where we can now start putting the widgets in that we're going to need to represent the actual icons for our pages. So just choose the column there. Let's just add another column in for good measure. Let's rename the first one left option column, something like that, and then on this one here, right option column. There we go. Now, what we now need to do is, of course, we now need to kind of just position these nicely in the row. So just with the row selected on the right hand side, we want to choose the space evenly. We want to kind of just distribute the child widgets across that actual row there. And of course, and as we add more options in, then they'll still be nicely strategically placed within inside the row. So be laid out just perfect for us. Okay, so next up, let's now create a home for both of our icons that we're going to have here. So with inside the left option column, hit the little plus here, and we're going to now choose a stack, would you believe? So the stack is going to kind of allow us to position the little selector, the little circle that will represent whether a page is selected, actually at the bottom of the actual screen. So let's hit the little plus here. The first thing we need to do is type in an icon button. So just choose icon button here, and then let's now just create another little container here, and we're just going to make this circular here on this particular side, and let's give our circle maybe a diameter of say 8 here, nice and small. With the fill color, we can change this. Let's just select that, and we're going to want to choose this one called nav text, okay, which is a custom color that's been set within inside the theme of the actual sample application. Just choose that here. So we're just going to want to go back to the stack here, just choose that, and then we can actually say default child alignment is actually centered at the bottom. Don't worry, we'll sort this icon out in just a moment. So that's pretty well much all nicely set for us. Let's move back over to the icon button. Let's give our icon button an actual name here. So I'm going to call this one graph icon button, just like that, because it's going to contain like a little bar graph that we've got there. And then this container, we're just going to call this one select container, just like that. Let's now work on this icon button itself. So just with that selected on the right hand side, let's get some of these settings set for us. So our button size is going to be 56, something like that. Now our fill color, let's now just select that. Let's clear that color. Let's go to the border color. Let's just clear that color as well. We don't want that. We want to take the actual border width off as well. So just delete that. Now with our border radius, let's just choose here 20 here. That's good. And then let's move down here that we need to now change some of these sizes as well. So with our icon size, we're just going to set this to 28, just like that. Our primary icon color, we just need to change that, and we need to select our nav text color, okay. And then let's now sort this little icon out. So just hit the little plus here. Let's do a search for chart here. Let's now just have a look here. Have we got anything on awesome? No, let's just find a nice one that represents our chart. Let's go for that one there, just simple bar chart. That's all that we need. So let's just space this out a little bit more here. So that's looking pretty good. That's just how we kind of want it here. Just if there's any other settings we need to set. So actually, I'm just going to scroll down here. Let's choose the button hover style actually, because when the actual user hovers their mouse over, now I know we're using a mobile here, but let's just actually remove that particular color. So we don't obviously want that to be displayed. So just choose that and just choose the secondary background color. So you'll find that we won't get any effect if we hover our mouse over that particular sort of button itself. Okay, so one further option we need to do is just with the actual left option column selected, just choose the main axis alignment. That just drops it down a little bit more to the base of the actual navigation row itself. So that's good. That's looking pretty good. Let's what we could now do to make it really simple for ourselves is we can just right click on this here. Let's copy that. Let's go to the actual right column option here. Just right click and then paste that in, and you can see now that we've got something very similar on that particular side. So with the right option column selected, let's just make sure we choose the main axis alignment there, and we can now go in and we can now start sort of customizing these particular options here. So where it says a graph icon button, let's now change that. For this example, we're just going to call this wallet icon button, just like that. And let's now change the icon of that. Let's move here to where it says bar chart. Let's select that. Let's do a search for maybe wallet. Let's see if we can find something on the font awesome here. Let's just choose that one there. And that's got our wallet display as we need. So that's pretty well much it. We've got our two options now available to us. We're going to have to come back in here shortly and customize these a little bit more, but I think for now we'll just leave it there on the customization for those. Let's now focus our attention on introducing this sort of this widget in the middle in between these two here. Okay, so we've inside the navigation row, hit the little plus here. Let's now add another stack in there. So just choose stack there. Let's give our stack a name. So I'm going to call this action stack, like that. And I'm just going to hold my left mouse button. Now I'm going to drag this between the two options there, wait for it to go purple and then release, and I'll position it nicely central like that. Now we don't need to do any further customization with our stack at this particular point, but what we do need to do is now add some widgets inside. So just hit the little plus. The first one we're going to do is add a container, and then I'm just going to hit the little plus again, and I'm going to add another container inside that container as well. So this top container, we now need to give this an actual name. So we're going to call this one action box container, just like that. And I'm just going to remove the widths and the heights off. We don't need any of that, so just delete that, and that's all that we need to do. Okay, now with inside that, of course, this container now needs to have some property set. So just hit container here. Now with the width and the height, let's just choose 38 for both here on the width and the height. There we go. And then our fill color, we're going to set as our primary color itself. Now what we also want to round off the edges as well. So let's go to the border radius, type in 12 here, and all of the sort of the size will be then just the same basically, okay, on the 12. So that's it. So if I just click away there, you see now we've got this nice, lovely kind of container. Now, what we now need to do with this particular container is we actually now need to twist it. We need to transform it. Okay, so in fact, first, before we do that, let's give our container a name. Actually, let's keep to convention here. So this is going to be called action button container. There we go, just like that. And forgive me if I'm looking to my left-hand side, because on my screen on my left, I've actually got my notes here, so I can remind myself. I'm not a robot. I can never remember everything, so I kind of got the widget notes here on the left-hand side. So with inside this, we're just going to right-click on this particular container, and I'm going to wrap this widget, and I'm going to wrap this actually into a transform. Okay, so you're not going to see anything visual at this particular point, but this is going to allow us to then actually rotate as well. So what I'm going to do here on the right hand side, I'm just going to move the little scroller up to 45 degrees there. And if I click away, you can see that we've now got this nice, almost diamond representation of our container. Now, of course, we're going to animate that later on in this particular series. But for now, that's looking pretty good for us. Okay, so let's now focus on putting some more widgets within inside our action stack here. So just collapse the action box container for now. With the action stack selected, just hit the little plus here. Let's now add another container in here. Let's give our container a name. And this one's going to be called arrows container, like that. You can guess what this is going to contain. Now with our width and our height, we can just set this now to 38. This is the same dimensions of the actual one underneath here. So just remove the fill color, select that, let's clear that color so we don't need to see anything like that. We don't need to change any other settings. Now, with inside this particular container, this is where we now need to put a stack in, because what we need to do is we need to kind of more position the arrows that's going to be in here, because of course we're going to animate those out to a right and to a left direction. Okay, so firstly, let's now put a stack in here. Let's just do a search for a stack. Here's the stack option, and let's give our stack a name. Let's call this one arrows stack, just like that, and then hit the little plus here. Let's now put some icons in here as well. So I'm just going to choose one. Let's just right click. Let's just duplicate that one here. So with our arrow stack, let's now just select that. Let's now just centrally position everything. So the default child alignment, just choose the central for now. Of course, we'll adjust that in just a moment. Okay, so let's give our icons a name. So I'm going to call this one left icon. Hit enter, and just on this one I'm going to call this one, you guessed it, right icon, just like that. Now we need to now set some properties of our actual icon itself. So just move over to the icon here, just select that. Let's give let's search for the icon that we need. So we need a kind of like an arrow back, I think. So let's just do a search here. Is that the one that we want? Oh, arrow back, that's it. And then on the right icon, let's just choose that one. Let's just do a search for this, and it's going to likely be this one here, which is going to be the arrow forward. There we go. So we've got our icons. Now we just need to change the icon color for both of these now. So just choose icon color, and we're just going to choose the button text option here. And of course on the left icon, I'm just going to do the same as well. And of course you can copy and paste kind of styling across the widgets, but I'm just makes it easy for me just to set that. Now with the left icon, I think the size is looking pretty good. I don't think there's anything else we need to change, but we now need to kind of more position these arrows within inside the actual stack itself. So with the left icon selected, this is where I'm going to kind of break some of my own rules here. Now on the right, let's just take the little lock off, there it is. I tend to do things in sort of increments of 4, so 4, 8, sort of 12, 16. But because of the sizing of this particular container, we're going to have to break that rule slightly. So I'm going to have to put a 10 on the right here, and then a 10 on the bottom like that. Now with the right icon, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to set a 10 on the left and then a 10 on the top like that. As you can see that we're starting to get that look with inside the actual stack that we need. We just need to choose the left icon here. Let's just choose the alignment to be central, just like that. We need to choose the right icon, and we just need that to be central as well. So if I click away now, you should see the arrows kind of nicely positioned by default in their starting position. Okay, so we're not done with our action stack just yet. We still need to put some further widgets in there. Let's just collapse the arrows container. We're done with that for just a moment. On the action stack, just choose that. Let's add another container in there, and this one is called close container. So this is going to represent the kind of the animated X. Once the options get displayed, that we can then obviously hit and then close that back down again. Now inside here, we just need to put an icon button in. So I'm just going, sorry, an icon. We're just going to go down here to the left icon. Let's just grab that, let's just copy that. Let's now go back down to the close icon, and let's just right click and let's just paste that in there. Now with our actual close container, we just need to get rid of the styling here again. So let's just click on the fill color, let's just clear that. Now with our width and our height, you guessed it, it's going to be 38, which is just how we had it previously. Now, you're not going to see any difference there, but with our left icon, let's just reset the padding here. Let's just choose the little reset option here. We can keep the alignment as it is, but we need to change the actual arrow back. Okay, so just choose that, and I'm just going to do a search for one called close. I think we can just take the first one there, just choose that there, and you'll see very carefully, you'll see that we've got this X, this position centrally here. Now the only thing I'm going to do slightly is I'm just going to increase the actual size of this. Okay, so it makes it a little bit more prominent when it's actually on its own with inside that container. So that's it. We just need to change the name of this now. So we're just going to call this close icon for good measure. There we go. That's all that we need to do, I think, for now. Let's just collapse all of these down here. So there's one more final widget we need to put in here. We can go ahead and do that now with inside the action stack. So this is going to be another container. Let's just hit a little plus here. Let's go to container, and I'm going to call this one action tap container, just like that. Okay, let's just remove all of these details out here. Let's just, in fact, keep this as 38 by 38, just like the others. Let's just clear the fill color. There it is, it's all gone. So don't worry too much about what this is actually doing at this particular stage. This is going to allow us to apply actions to this at a later point. Okay, so well done if you've been following along so far. We just need to do a little bit of further customization to this particular component before we can actually add it to our pages, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is select a navigation component. Now, obviously, because this is a reusable component across our application, we're going to deploy this on both of the pages. But of course, when the component actually gets put on that particular page, we're going to want to tell the component, okay, well, which page are you actually on? Are you on the charts page? Are you on the wallet page? And depending on which one we are on, we're going to then want to change behavior within inside the actual component. So in our case, we're going to want to indicate which page that we're actually on. Now, in order to make that happen, we need to create a component parameter. So with the navigation component selected, on the right hand side, go up to where it says component parameters, hit the little plus here, choose add parameter, and we are just going to call this one selected page index like this. And this is going to be of type an integer. Now we are going to be passing into this component either a 1 or a 2. If it's 1, it's the charts page. If it's 2, it's the wallet page. Okay. So it's going to be required. So we're always going to have to pass this in. Okay. Just hit the confirm button. Always remember to hit confirm. And that's now all created. So that's now available to us when we apply this now on the actual parent page itself. So what we now want to do with inside this page is now respond to that actual value being set as a component parameter. So what we're going to do is we're now going to sort of customize the kind of the opacity of each of these particular icons here. Okay, and the way that we do that is with the left option column selected, what we're going to do is just going to have that there selected. We're going to go over to opacity. We're just going to choose that, and we're now going to put a condition in here. So just move down to conditions, just choose that. And this is the first condition. This is where we now need to grab hold of our selected page index. So where it says conditions, just choose that, choose a single condition, and we're going to choose the first value, just choose the selector there, and we're going to say the selected page index and just hit confirm. And I'm going to say if this is equal to the value of 1, so if we pass 1 in, which represents the chart page from being selected, just hit confirm. We're going to want to set the opacity, which is currently set to 1 at the moment, to be 1 in here. Else, if it's anything but selected page index 1, we're going to set this as 0.5. Okay, so just to make it kind of semi-transparent. Okay, so just hit confirm there, and I'm just going to go back into this, and I'm just going to select this. I'm going to go up to here, and I'm going to say copy variable. So I'm just going to use that again, and I'm going to move over to this particular icon here, which is the right option column. Just make sure that's selected. Go to the opacity. I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to paste it in here, paste the variable in, so it saves me having to redo it. But the only difference is I just need to change this now to say equals to 2. So just select that, choose the value, just hit 2, and then of course it means that the styling will then be applied in that instance. So that's our opacity set. That's good. Now we need to move on to the next bit. Okay, so we now need to handle the little circle kind of container that we've got here. So with inside the left options column, just choose a select container. Now we're only going to want to display this when we have the selected page index as 1. So quite easy with inside FlutterFlow. With the select container selected, move across to conditional, choose on where it says unset, and of course where it says conditions, just select that, say it's a single condition and the first value, and then we just click on unset, and we can just choose the selected page index, hit confirm, and if it's equal to then 1, then of course it means that it will be displayed. Of course, when it's anything but 1, it's not going to get displayed. So the great thing is we just come back up here. Let's just do what we did before. Let's just copy that variable. Let's move over to the little wallet, so the column here, just expand that, choose the select container just there, and we're going to want to go up to conditional. We're going to want to select the unset there, and we're going to want to just paste that in. But of course, we just need to choose the second value now of 2. So we can now have these independently now set. So that's great. We've now got the icons which will be kind of grayed out when they're not selected. We've now got the little indicator underneath each of those icons now, depending on which page is selected. I think we're in a really, really good position now. We can now create this particular navigation bar actually with inside our parent pages. Then we can fire it up and give it a good test. Okay, so here I am then back on the charts page. You can see how I've pretty well much collapsed everything here, but we have the stack. So this is where we're now going to want to add that navigation component. So if you're just with the stack selected, just hit the little plus here. Let's move over to the diamond, and you can see here that if I just scroll down, we've got our navigation component. So just select that, and then you can see straight away that it's instantly positioned at the bottom. So if you remember back some while ago now where I said about positioning that particular kind of container in the stack at the bottom there, you can see exactly the reason to why we've done that. So that's now nicely positioned, but we now obviously need to configure this. Okay, so the navigation component is in position. We're on the charts page. So as we were configuring the actual navigation bar to respond to the page that it's in, we now need to choose the selected page index. So we're just going to choose 1 there. That's all that we need to do. And we now need to add this navigation bar component actually onto our wallet page as well. So we're just going to do something exactly the same. We're going to go to the wallet page. Let's just collapse the page container here, hit the little plus, go to the diamonds, choose the navigation component, and here we're just now going to select this as number 2. So that's all that we need to do. So of course, if I were now to run this up, we should see the navigation component then be positioned on the home page, which is the charts page here. But of course, when you actually click on the icons, they're not going to do anything yet because we're not actually navigating to those pages. So let's go and sort that out now, and then we can then run it up in test, and let's see how things behave. So within our actual navigation component, we've now got on the widget tree here, we now need to add some actions now to our graph icon button and our wallet icon button. Let's start with the graph icon button, just select that. Let's move up to the actions option here. Let's add the action that we need in, and we're just going to select the navigate to. So just choose that, and we're going to make sure that we select the charts page here. So just choose charts page. Our transition now just needs to be instant. We want that instant effect. We don't want any kind of transitions or anything like that. We want to take the little toggle off to allow back navigation. There's no behavior required on hitting a back button within inside your mobile device. It just simply will navigate to both pages. So we've done that now for the actual graph icon button, but we now need to do it for the wallet icon. So let's just do that again. Choose wallet. Let's go to the actions. Let's hit the add action. Let's go to navigate to, and we're going to say it's going to be the wallet page. Let's take the little toggle back navigation, and the default transition will be instant. That's all that we need to do. So that's good. So we should see that response now. Let's now fire this up in test mode. Let's see what happens, and hopefully we've got everything set up how we want it. So here we are there with our sample application fired up. You can see here that I've kind of got the first page selected. I've got the little indicator there, and there's no indicator here, and this is nicely grayed out, so things are looking good right off the bat. Obviously this particular section here in this action area looks a right old mess, but it will do at this particular stage because we've done no customization to that whatsoever. But if I now select the actual wallet page here, you can see now that quite nicely I'm getting the little indicator. We navigate to that particular page, which is great. We're grayed out on this side, so you can see here that things are looking pretty good for us in this particular moment. So I think we're all good on this particular bit. We now need to go one step further now and do some more customization, but we're making great progress.